So recently I bought this, actually I guess I should open this up with my new thing. Welcome to the 7 show. I don't, yeah, that'll work. All right, so recently I bought this, the Strike Pro SE drum kit, electronic drum kit. Really cool kit. All of the pads they not only look like acoustic drums, but they have mesh heads on them. So the bounce you get off of them playing them, they feel like real acoustic drums. It actually comes with 4 toms, snare drum, kick drum, a hi-hat, and a hi-hat controller, and then a ride cymbal and 3 crashes, which is awesome. That's like all you'd ever need unless you want more. So a lot of people talk about splitting drum pads. A lot of electronic drum kits, they have on the pad itself, there's 2 triggers. So there's the trigger on the mesh head, and then there's the trigger on the rim. The plug that plugs into this is a regular 1/4 inch phono jack. It's TRS, so tip, ring, and sleeve. And what it is it's essentially a stereo channel. So the pad itself is, let's say, the left, and then the rim is the right channel. So it's really easy to split these things up. For what I've done on this is I've taken one of my toms, I've split it, and then I've added another floor tom. The other 3 toms I've split, and I've added these extra cymbals. They're old Roland cymbals that I had. And I use them for just accents and splash cymbals and things like that. So I'll actually show you kind of what I've done over here on the brain, how I got those connected and split up. So I'm not a great drummer. I can get by. But one of the things that I've been really interested in recently is open-handed drumming. So most people, they play, most right-hand dominant people, they play, the right hand hits the hi-hat and the left hand hits the snare. Open-handed is the reverse. So you're playing with your left hand on the hi-hat and you're breaking your headphones as you're demonstrating, and then your right hand hits the snare drum. And so I've been kind of toying around with that on some stuff. But I've seen people do alternate drum set setups where they actually put their hi-hat is over on this side. They're still controlling the up and down with their left foot, but they've got it on a chain or a cable choke, so you can control it remotely, and the cable moves the thing up and down. I thought that'd be pretty cool. I could do that. And then I started looking at the prices of these remote hi-hat controllers, and they're more than I want to spend ever. For me, not a pro drummer or anything, but they're also, I don't know how well I'm going to like it. So I came up with the idea. I thought, these are just electronic drums. I can actually maybe I could just hook this hi-hat up instead. Sure, that works. This is the hi-hat cymbal is just a regular pad. There's nothing special about it. There's 2 cables that plug in to control your hi-hat. There's one for the up and down movement, which is just kind of a variable resistor sort of thing. Just the up and down. And then there's the other cable input for when you're bashing on the cymbal. So I unhooked the cable going to the hi-hat, and I put it over here on this crash. Sure enough, it worked. But that leaves this one dead, and I don't have this crash going. Then I thought, I wonder what happens if I can split it, and can I run them both at the same time? So I bought it's just basically, it's a phono plug it's for like joining for 2 people to share a headphone. Think of it that way. So it's a phono plug to 2 female phono plugs, and everything is just mirrored off of the 2 phono plugs. I plugged it into the back of the brain, and then I have one of them going to this hi-hat, and I have one of them going to this cymbal, and sure enough, it works. And I'll show you. How am I going to do this? I'll show you. Okay, so in my typical style of not really caring how to present the information I'm presenting, I have my GoPro camera and I'm going to point it at this and do this. So how I set this up is I've got just this standard, it's just a phono, and it splits this signal into two separate jacks, and then the yellow jack goes off to the crash that's over there, and this purple, no, I shouldn't say jack, the plug, this plug goes over to this hi-hat. So it's just taking two sources and feeding them into one input. To split a set, to split a pad the regular way, you would take something more like this, where this is a phono plug. Let me see if I can get it out of here. This is a phono plug, and it separates your sleeve and ring into your left and right channel, or right and left channel, as it were. On this particular one, this one is going to my Tom 1. So it looks like on the Alesis pads, the left channel is your main mesh head, and then the right channel is going to be the ring that goes around it, this part here. So you have this trigger part and you have this trigger part. So that's how they're doing it on the Alesis. I don't know if that's how they do it on the other drum sets or not, but at least for this particular one. And it's pretty easy to figure out. You just plug it in. Let's go over here. On the Alesis one, you actually have this little representation of what's going on. And so when I hit my tom, you can see it triggers. Oh, this tom is actually split. So if I hit a regular tom, it triggers in the middle. And then when I hit the rim, nothing happens because I've split it to one of these guys. So yeah, that's basically that in a confusing nutshell. So another idea that I thought, okay, I really like this idea of being able to split my hi-hats, but at the same time, there's times where I don't want to use the crash as a hi-hat. So to fix that, what I have to do is I have to come over here, I have to unplug the crash plug from my splitter. I have to plug it back into this empty input right there. But what if I were to make an A-B switch that switched one way, the line from the crash goes down to the crash and gets routed to the hi-hat, but if I switch it to B, it actually goes back to this crash. You could do it with a patch bay or something too, I guess, but an A-B switch would be pretty cool, because then you can just have it sitting underneath this thing and go A-B, right? And you change your kit that you've got in the module to based on what pads you want to use at the time. So I do have this my older roll-in kit, which is old and not really good for anything, but the pads are pretty good still. I mean, they're still functional. So what if I take 2 or 3 of those pads and I mount them kind of off to the side as like a rototom type setup? I could actually do an A-B switch where I take my 2 floor toms and, you know, if they're switched to A, the connection goes to the floor tom, but if they're switched to B, they go to these other pads that are set up like rototoms, and I could use those for, maybe I don't often use that other, the snare drum floor tom that I made. I don't often use that. So that's one that I could switch around a lot to another pad up there, and I can use it as a cowbell or some other percussion instrument or something. Those two I could switch and just make them so that they're straight rototoms. So that's something I'm going to play around with, is making some sort of an A-B switch and see if it works. I don't see why it wouldn't. And maybe even taking something like a speaker selector might have enough capability that I could at least demo it to make sure that it's working. So I have heard people have talked about these, about splitting pads, and a lot of people say you can't just use regular, like a like a connector like this made for headphones for splitting the left and right channel or something, there's a couple of companies that make a splitter specifically designed for drum pads, and they have like I don't know, maybe they have a diode in them or some sort of a resistor or something in them. I haven't found that these regular splitters cause a problem. They seem to be working just fine. Everything triggers as it does normally. The only thing I had to do is that these roll-in cymbal pads have kind of a different, I don't know if it's a different output or something. Maybe they're not as loud as the piezo triggers that are in these other ones. So I do have to adjust the sensitivity a little bit when I plug these things in. But I think you have to do that anyway to match up if you've got different brands and different generation of pads. You do have to mess around with your sensitivity on them. But I haven't noticed any problem just using regular phono jack splitter. And then this one that I'm using for the hi-hat, it seems to be working just fine. It doesn't trigger badly. I haven't noticed any bad results from the brain. It doesn't seem to mind. It doesn't know that there's two triggers connected to it. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of a funny little thing. I haven't heard anybody talking about splitting their hi-hat cymbal like that. I've heard lots of people talking about splitting their pads, but not the hi-hats. So it does work. So if you can use that to your advantage, awesome. That's great. Yeah, so that's the first of the 7 show video. I don't know how I did. How did I do? I'm just goofing around, right? Just making content that maybe someone can find interesting. So great. That's all I have to say on that matter. So thanks for watching.